This video is sponsored by me. Buy my pot magnets on eBay. That's right, I've got this complex system of magnetics going on here, and you can use these for door catches, or hanging tools on the wall, or shovels, whatever you want to do. These little ones you won't find anywhere else. They work good for small doors. This would be for regular sized doors, large doors, or supersized whatever kind of doors. So I'm selling these with the strike plates, which I had custom made, and stainless steel fasteners. Everything is nickel plated except for these large strike plates. They are solid stainless steel, the magnetic type, so it works for a strike plate. So here they are, and you can buy these on eBay, and I list the relative hole size if you want to recess them into the wood. That's what you want to do if you're going to use it for a door catch. But I think they look pretty nice. And I've always been looking for the small ones. You can find these larger ones on eBay. I price all this stuff competitively, and if you want a custom order, just let me know. So I've got fancy door catches for your woodworking projects, or for making magnetic contraptions to do whatever. So buy them now while the supplies last. I hate marketing. Anyways, in this video I'm going to do a review of the Grizzly tool catalog. And I'm not going to talk about the machines or the power tools. They sell a lot of stuff in this catalog. And if you bought anything from Grizzly, you've probably seen one of these. You get one every year. Pretty fun to have in the bathroom. But I just want to show some of the things that I find really useful and are really good deals. And they're items that you might not have thought about before. So I'm going to tell you what's good with the Grizzly catalog, and I'll leave the machine reviews for another video. I have a lot of Grizzly machines, and I do get a lot of questions about them from people who are getting ready to make their purchases. They, want some last minute advice. But overall, I'm happy with the Grizzly machines. I think they deliver more bang for the buck in terms of, what the marketplace has to offer. They do pretty good on shipping. And aside from the minor hiccup I had with the electrical problems on the table saw, I haven't had any issues with my Grizzly machines. But the catalog does sell some things that are very useful, so I'm going to highlight that for you today and talk about some of the products that I just bought. So first off, Grizzly has a pretty wide array of drill bits, which I find useful. And they sell brad point bits in hard to find fractional sizes, as well as Forstner bits in metric sizes. And I just find that useful for designing projects to get specific size drill bits. And these sizes work in conjunction with my magnetic system. And you can buy all of these from Grizzly. They're actually not very expensive. I have one here. This brad point is not the best quality drill bit. You can see the grinding on it is very rough. But it's a simple profile, and you can easily resharpen these with a Dremel. But they're not the best quality, but for the price of them, they're just the same price as a regular metal drilling bit. And it's going to cut a cleaner hole in wood. It doesn't cut a perfectly flat-bottomed hole like a good quality brad point or a Forstner bit. It cuts kind of a dome-shaped hole, but it still works with recessing the strike plates. Alright, so I'm going to skip through all the machines. if you want a review of those machines, you can go somewhere else, buddy. But I will start with here. These are by far the best bandsaw blades that I've tried. They work really good. The Timberwolf brand. They last a real good long time. So the one I get for my bandsaw, I like the 3/8 size, 4 teeth per inch, positive claw, $36. But it's a good blade. It's a little bit thinner than standard blades, and I just find that they work better. So that's my recommendation for bandsaw blades, and Grizzly sells virtually every size. So moving on, go into dust collection. These steel fittings are really expensive, and I just want to talk about my system real briefly. I use a combination of PVC and flexible hose and metal fittings. So the only metal fittings I have are right here because I needed to run them into this custom-made manifold that branches off and for smaller ports. So it's a custom taper from 6" to 7", and the 7" elbow you can only get in metal. And that's the advantage of the metal system, is because it has a lot more sizes, and the PVC only comes in 4" and 6". But the PVC is easier to work with, and then you can adapt the PVC fittings, you know, to work with shop vac hose or whatever kind of hose. So everything is compatible. It's really not that difficult to adapt PVC to metal fittings. You don't need special couplings to do that. There's a few tricks, but you can spend a ton of money on getting all metal, but Grizzly has a good selection of plastic fittings that I find useful. And by far the most useful that I use is the angle dust port, and I just bought 2 of them here. And I use these for dust collection on custom-made fences and jigs. I'll show you a couple I have over here. So this one is a custom fence, and I just attached it on with some angle plate brackets. This one goes above my table saw, clamps on to a fence, and so I mounted this one just by drilling a hole through a piece of plywood, and then I just plastic wrapped it around the plywood. And this is another custom fence. But it's just handy to have these so that I can add a big strong 4" port of dust collection wherever I want to. This one I can clamp it like underneath, like my router table here. If I just want to, like, you know, collect some of that mess that goes underneath, I can just clamp this on anywhere. So very handy to have these so that I can adapt my 4" hose to do whatever I want to do. And I also got a 6" blast gate. I'm going to make a downdraft table, and the 6" gate is inexpensive. And you can take these apart. You actually don't have to use this as a blast gate. It's not hard to break these apart. And then you can get two manifolds you can just use to hook up a hose to something. But I used to have all these plastic gates, and they end up breaking over time. There's just some glue holding it together, and as soon as dust gets jammed up in there, they bust apart. They're not very good, but you can still use them to attach hose onto things. So these fittings are relatively inexpensive. Grizzly has a good selection, and I use these whenever I can, and when I need to adapt shop vac hose and all kinds of stuff. So that's one of the things I usually order whenever I buy stuff from Grizzly. I just stock up on some extra plastic fittings, and they have the metal gates that aren't actually that expensive. But if I do need a blast gate, I do prefer to get the metal ones with the aluminum castings, because the plastic ones, they just don't hold together. I wouldn't recommend their hose. They really don't have good quality hose. I bought some of this stuff. It's just like a flexible garbage bag. But some of the stuff that's in Grizzly is good, and some of the stuff is not worth it. So it's good to have a little guidance. All right, here we go. So these hooks right here are incredibly useful, and I just bought the assorted 26 pack for an amazing price of $7.50. I mean, this is like 5 pounds of metal right here. And these hooks are intended to work with this metal tool storage panel system. So they want you to buy this piece of steel for, $30-40, and then the hooks are, a lot cheaper. So I'm going to show you a little trick right now, and this is the most useful of these hooks. I use them all over the shop for hooking stuff on. They're hooks for the air hose blowers and that kind of thing. So I have a couple of these on all of the posts, and you can alter them by removing these metal tabs in the back. So then you get these square holes that you can just screw right onto a piece of plywood or a post, and it works really, really good. Okay, so I'm going to score the metal on this top one, and then I'm just going to break it off with pliers and then file it down. So here I've been using these hooks to hang up my brushes. I've accumulated too many brushes and I ran out of pegboard space. But these hooks, I can hang these up anywhere. And I just screw them in with these round washer head screws, so they cover that large square opening. So I can put them anywhere you can screw into a piece of wood. I hate pegboard. I think it's the stupidest idea. I hate these stupid hooks that, every time you pull something out, those things fall out. I spent way too much time picking those things up. They fall in behind the workbench, and they're just annoying. But with these hooks, you just have a solid piece of plywood, you can screw it anywhere, and it's super strong. I just don't see why pegboard makes any sense. I really like these hooks. I mean, for $7.50, that's got to be the best deal in that whole catalog. See, if you don't score that top one, it'll break off right there. Just FYI. That's why I was doing that. So, I don't know how Grizzly is going to feel about me altering their tools, but I got this to work really well. It's a good deal. So buy it now from Grizzly. Get them while they're hot. I modified their dust collector, even though I called them up and they instructed me not to do it. It would void the warranty, but I have my wall-mounted dust collector blower. Saves a lot of space in the shop. And I'll just go back to that real quick. This right here is the best deal in dust collection. If you want to outfit your dust collector with a wall-mounted blower, this is the best package. So you can just discard the bags and most of this piping and just use the blower, and then you get a nice little dolly with 4 wheels. I actually used that steel dolly for something else. It makes a handy cart. You can't really see it when you come into the shop, but I have it up here. So having the wall-mounted blower saves tons of space, and it sends all the dust out there, out of the shop, where it is not a health hazard. I did a bunch of dust collection videos explaining my system, how it works, but I just wanted to show people the unit that I used to put that together, and it's not that expensive. You won't find a better price for over 2,000 cubic feet per minute, and that's the threshold that you need to cover if you want to have efficient dust collection, to be able to operate 2 machines at the same time and to be able to run the 6-inch pipe. If you want to upgrade your planer, you need to get a big blower that'll handle 6-inch pipe. And all the smaller units will work fine for smaller tools, but if you want to get into the bigger machines, you need a bigger upgrade on your dust collection. And this one is the best price. And they've got the same one with the canister filter, if you want to use the filter inside. But just wanted to make a note about that, because people ask me about my dust collector sometimes. I've used this dust blower for several years now. It works great. And with the direct drive blower, you get as much cubic feet per minute as the larger 5 horsepower cyclones. See, if you go with a 3 horsepower cyclone, you only get 1,600 cubic feet per minute. The 5 horsepower cyclone has less than 2,300. So if you want to spend $2,500 on a cyclone and have this huge gargantuan thing taking up your floor space in your shop, that's up to you. I'm just saying there's different ways of managing dust collection, and you don't need this mega contraption. So for $2,500, you get less suction capacity than this machine right here. And this you can just mount on the wall, and it takes up 0 floor space. You got to think about floor space. I mean, you got to pay for the space that this machine occupies. So not only do you have to take time out of your workday to change the dust bags and make sure it's not overflowing, but you got to pay real estate for this thing. This thing's ridiculous. Who would have that in their shop? I'm going to make a downdraft table, and it's going to totally kick ass. So anyways, back to my review. Here's a tool that I found extremely useful. This tire inflator. I have it over here, hanging up on the wall. And it's got an easy to read dial indicator and a release button. And it just works really well for, inflating tires. If you have a compressor, you're going to be inflating somebody's tires. And I just found that tool to be really easy to use. And it seems to be accurate too. So for 21 bucks, I would recommend getting that just to have in your toolkit. This thing. I didn't buy this tool, but I have a dentist tray that I use in the shop. And it's just the handiest thing to have. Just to have a little extra adjustable work table to put your air gun down, or just keep your screws organized. For 40 bucks, this will pay for itself in no time. It's good to have one of these magnetic parts trays, just to keep nuts and bolts and things from flopping around. So I didn't buy that, but I would say that's a good deal just to have it. It looks like it's pretty well put together with good wheels. It's probably better than the one I have. I like these hand saws. I would recommend this one right here. It's the smaller combination saw. Grizzly's got a good selection of wheels and casters. I made this plywood skid out of a piece of scrap 2x4 and these 3-inch rubber gray tires. It's getting a little noisy, but I use it to handle large sheets of plywood. I just balance it in the center of the sheet, and then I can wheel it from the garage all the way into here without an extra helper. And it's pretty easy to make, and I've used it for, I think, since I've had this shop. So I could probably replace these wheels at some point. They're getting a little rickety, but it worked really well for a long time. Just saying. I might try some of these red ones next time. Maybe get the 5-inch wheels. But I don't know, just something I bought and used to make a jig. Sometimes I buy things out of the catalog just to see what they would do, and then I figure out what to do with them later. But this is one of those ideas I came up with that's been very helpful. I'd buy this saw blade right here, the Precision Trim DeWalt saw blade, 24 tooth. It's a ripping blade, and for $24.95, it's a really good blade. Train's here. Well, anyways, these are really good saw blades. I actually think they last a little bit longer than the Diablo that you can get at Home Depot, but $10 cheaper. So on to drill bits. As I said before, they got a good selection of drill bits here. I've tried these cheaper pocket hole bits, and these work okay. If you want to save a little bit of money on the Craig pocket hole bits for $12.50, these work okay. They're just a little bit shorter, which means that you can't drill as deep of a hole, but for standard pocket hole drills, they work okay. I just bought this thing, stepless drill bit. It makes cone-shaped holes. Now, I showed you what this did before. So what this cone-shaped hole does, I use this technique for attaching tabletops to the bases. So the hole gives a little bit of wiggle room like that, so that allows for the expansion and contraction of the tabletop. So that's one of the techniques that I use to attach a tabletop with screws, but allowing that expansion and contraction. So these are the fractional sizes of the brad points that are useful. And I just bought this countersink, the 9/64ths, and this is the only size I really need, and I use it for number 8 and number 10 screws, and it's a really good tool, worth to have. I don't recommend getting the whole set, I just need the larger size, but having one of these or 2 or 3 is really good. And then they have the carbide tipped Forstner bits in 16ths and metric size. Very handy. They're not the best quality bits, but I mean, for the price, they work really good. Dowel centers. I don't need these very often, but it's really good to have a set of these for transferring the location of holes for $4.50. You know, just throw it in there. These are the mini diamond bits that work with the rotary tools and the Dremels. I use these to resharpen tools like brad points and profiles on chisels and that kind of thing. But not that expensive here on Grizzly. So if you have a rotary tool, it's good to have one of those for sharpening things. You can sharpen serrated knives and all kinds of stuff. Toggle clamps. Very good to have these in the shop for making jigs, custom fences, and hold-down clamps. I recommend a couple of this style and a couple push-pull type, just to have when you're ready to make a jig, because you never know when you're going to need these. I wouldn't recommend any Grizzly sandpaper just because I stick with Klingspor for all of my sanding stuff. I'm kind of stubborn about it. I've used this saw cleaner before. This works pretty good and it's fairly cheap. It's a strong base, so it's nasty stuff, but it really gets off the pine pitch and all that resin that builds up on the blades. This is the lacquer that I use on the zinc tops. People have been asking me about that, but I get the dead flat Balin jet spray lacquer. Moving ahead. Angle plates. Now these are expensive, but I get a lot of questions about these because I use these for woodworking. I buy them on eBay. They're expensive to get them new. But like this one here, this is an angle plate that I use for putting together drawers and boxes, and it gives me a 90-degree reference on two different planes. So it's really handy to have this. I screw it right to my workbench, so I have a very rigid setup, and it works really good. So stay tuned for more exciting woodshop adventure videos, and buy my magnets and my rubber feet.